Hey y'all, it's Mary Moybiel with Mary Moybiel Healing Services. This is going to be a cosmic update. It's a special one that normally my patron users get, but Mars in retrograde is a big deal for the collective, so I wanted to make that available on all my platforms. Make sure you subscribe or follow me on Instagram or Facebook, Mary Moybiel Healing Services at Healing Services, or you can find me on Patreon and support me and support the work that I do for my communities at Mary Moybiel Healing Services. Thank you for being here, and let's go ahead and get started with the Mars retrograde season. It's the long-awaited Mars retrograde. It's the fourth quarter of 2020. It's been reckless, and this is really what the Capricorn Council and Mars specifically have been working us up to so far in 2020. So let's talk about some of the basics before we get into what specifically is happening. So Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto have been in Capricorn all year long, and all of them are still currently in retrograde. Jupiter will go direct on Saturday the 12th, so this coming Saturday, and it'll be kind of a lightening of the load, but in comparison to everything else that is going on, and Mars just has gone into retrograde at that point. Jupiter going direct isn't a huge aspect on what we're going to be feeling, unless maybe Jupiter rules your chart or has big significance there. But so anyway, these energies have been building in retrograde. So when things are in retrograde, they're much heavier. It means it's closest to the earth at those moments. And so the energy is going to be heavy and powerful when it's in retrograde. Mars has been in Aries since July 27th. And so sitting there for the last couple of weeks, it has been just kind of really basically sitting still around 27 and 28 degrees of Aries. So as it's been sitting there, it's just gaining energy and gaining power at home in Aries in its home sign. And so think about when you're home, when you're comfortable, you're able to express yourself, you're able to be your truest being, your most authentic self. And sometimes those are the places that we go and we allow our big emotions to come forward. So Aries has been holding Mars at home since July 27th. So it has been feeling that strong, powerful energy of Mars being let out. When it goes into retrograde, like I said, it's closest to Earth at that time, so it's going to be really powerful energy. But preparing to go into retrograde, it's been sitting stationary and just building, getting all riled up in Aries. By the time it gets out of Aries is the beginning of January, so it will have been, Mars will have been in Aries at home for 6 months at that point. Really getting into that energy and feeling strongly in that energy. So the frustration you've been feeling, the push to do more, the big passion, the big emotions, suppressed rage, or even, like on the opposite side, the very loving and passionate and need for that connection is all going to be coming up. Mars has already squared so let's talk about what squaring is. So squaring is when planets are in the zodiac at 90 degrees. Each zodiac holds 30 degrees. So it's going to be a different element, but it's going to be the same modality. So the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. There are leaders. They each rule a different element. So fire is Aries, water is Cancer, air is Libra, and earth is Capricorn. And so right now we're going to be talking about the Capricorn Council, which is currently holding Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. And we're going to be talking about Aries, which is holding Mars. And so when they're squaring, they're in that same leadership sign and that same leadership energy, but they're different elements. Meaning Aries is fire and Capricorn is earth. So even though they're both leaders and they want to take charge and they want to, prove their point, etc., they're going about it in very different ways. And so when they square each other, there's going to be some friction within that meeting. It's almost like a cross that they have to kind of, they're trying to outdo each other sometimes in those spaces. And so it's uncomfortable, it's aggravating, it's frustration. So those are all things that you may be feeling right now, especially depending on where these things are in your chart. You know, squaring aspects can be very harsh, but they're also great opportunities for us to grow and evolve and learn from experiences. The more we're able to kind of go with the flow and learn the lessons as they come from the universe, the less harsh these lessons will be when these planets square off together. This squaring, these opportunities to grow, this is what we're going to see through the rest of 2020. So that will be coming in different ways based on how it's going to affect your chart. And also, retrogrades are here to check us, bring us back, teach us a lesson again. So retrogrades in astrology, they're cycles inside of cycles. And so this Mars retrograde is activating a few different things. Two of the big ones are the first squaring that it did going from July 27th when it entered Mars into the end of August as it was squaring the Capricorn Council the first time. So when it goes into Mars retrograde, a lot of times we'll revisit some of those lessons that we've learned as an extra test to make sure that we've learned that lesson, or that we have another opportunity to break a pattern or a cycle that we've been in. This is also going to trigger Mars retrograde that happened in 2018. And so if you think back to 2018, see what patterns were coming up for you. See what new things you were beginning to release or things you were changing in your life. You may see those things coming to a closing here in this next Mars retrograde cycle that's coming up starting on the 9th. So it's good to be able to think back, which is why I always tell you guys to make sure that you're keeping a journal, keeping a log of the things that are coming up for you, the things that you're working on, the things that you're doing in your healing, so that when things get triggered with astrological cosmic events in the future, you can go back and see what may be coming up for you, or what may be asking to be healed, or what patterns that you've been getting out of. And that's always a good thing to have, just to go back to and clarify and bring yourself back to center, and be able to appreciate the growth that you've been doing. So we become aware of what the planets are doing and what the energy is in the cosmos, so that we can utilize that awareness and that knowledge when we come to how we interact and how we do our healing and how we move forward in those days. And so let's go ahead and talk about what Mars is going to be doing through the rest of the year, so that we can just have that awareness and keep our Mars energy in check, because it is going to be blasting through the rest of the year. So remember, the key players are going to be Mars and Saturn and the transits that happen within them. So finding those on your natal chart is going to really help you recognize where you may be feeling this, what parts of your life. So check into your houses and what is being held in them. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it with Mars. So as I mentioned, Mars has been in Aries since the 27th. The last couple of weeks, it's really been getting ready to go into retrograde. When it goes into retrograde, it's going to slow down, because it's going to look like from Earth that it is spinning backwards, but that's not what's happening. It's just the change in our rotation and how close that we are to those certain planets. And so it's been getting closer to us, and in doing so, it seems to be staying at the same degrees of that zodiac. So it's gaining power in that, and not being able to really get any of that energy out, because it's just spinning there, if you will. So as it's getting slower or closer to Earth, it's getting heavier and more powerful in its same right. So Mars has already made its first pass through Capricorn Council, and now it's going to go retrograde, and it's going to go back through those planets while it's in retrograde. So specifically, people that have late cardinal sign degrees in their chart are going to be feeling these squares significantly harder. So again, those cardinal signs are going to be Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Check to see if you have them around the 20 plus degree marks, and you're going to be feeling these energies significantly more. So Mars goes into retrograde September 9th. For anyone that's into numerology, this is going to be 9/9 in the year of 4. Mars will stay in retrograde until November 13th, which is also Friday the 13th. So that is also a significant number for those of you that do such in your healing work. In this energy, we're being asked to reassess, readjust, realign, and readdress issues. things are coming to light with Pluto, boundaries are being checked with Saturn, expansion is being just driven with Mars and Jupiter. And so there's a lot of things coming up to be reassessed and readdressed here. We may feel tired and frustrated, unable to get past blocks that are holding us back. Things may seem like endings. This is a time to remember not to react impulsively. We're also going to have Mercury coming into retrograde as Mars is also in retrograde in October and November. So that's going to be significant to the way that we react and we communicate in those moments. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, and there will definitely be more videos, so make sure that you subscribe as we get through this Mercury, Mars, intense cardinal crossing season. It's important sometimes to remember that endings or setbacks aren't always a negative thing. They're negative to our ego a lot of times, but if you're able to trust or learn to trust and believe in the divine timing of things, normally these are very timed out setbacks for us. The universe knows way more than we know about what's going to be happening in the future. And sometimes those setbacks are actually just the universe saying, hold on a second, this isn't exactly your time. So make sure that when you have setbacks and when you get frustrated or you don't feel like something's happening fast enough, that you try to connect and trust in the divine timing of things and recognize that you may be acting and feeling out of your ego. And sometimes being aware of that allows us to come back a little bit and say, yeah, you know what, this isn't the end of the world. Maybe I do need a couple extra weeks to hone in on X, Y, and Z. So when we talk about Mars, it's the go, go, go. When we talk about Saturn, it's the no, it's the wait, it's the let me test you, let me check and make sure the foundation is solid, let's do a boundary check, etc. So these are going to be big, big, big energy putter-outers for the rest of the year. Mars goes retrograde on the 9th of September, and it's going to be sitting there moving very, very slowly for the first couple weeks, and it's gaining energy. It's getting more frustrated. It's not able to get out some of that energy, and so it's just harnessing that within itself, getting ready for these squares with the Capricorn Council. So the first thing that happens is on September 24th, Mars is going to oppose Mercury. Mercury is going to be in Libra. So when Mars is opposing Mercury specifically, it's the invitation to slow down. Think before you act, think before you communicate. You're going to possibly want to act out of impulse or straight emotion, not being able to see the bigger picture, missing the details. And so this is an invitation at that time to slow down. Check in with yourself. Make sure you're doing the best you can on your self-care to be able to show up with the clearest mind as possible, because it's going to, Mercury is all about air, communication, knowledge, etc. And so you may have confusion, you may, and opposing Mars specifically, Mars is going to be wanting to do things. So maybe trying to pick up something to find a way to let out some energy, whether that is physically, emotionally, energetically, etc. during that time will be specifically to your benefit. So on the 24th, Mercury and Mars oppose, and they're both getting ready to start squaring the Capricorn Council. On the 29th of September, Mars retrograde will square Saturn, and this is huge. This is big for a couple different reasons. Boundaries, restrictions are going to be checked. Saturn's going to be fresh out of retrograde. It's coming out of retrograde on that day. And so if you're in your Saturn return year, and if you're not and you're curious, if your Saturn is in Capricorn in your natal chart, then you are in your Saturn return, and that is significantly important. So I would Google Saturn return. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll help you as much as you can. But this is going to be the big fourth quarter, the last hurrah for your Saturn return. And a lot of times it's gonna be tough. We're evolving here. We are breaking patterns, generational patterns, karmic patterns, things that have been following us our entire lives. Your Saturn return is the time to break those patterns, break through the boundaries, change your foundations, find your truth and your stability. And so in this last part of the year, if you're in your Saturn return, it's going to be tough. But this, as it turns direct and it moves forward with that first square, well, the second technically square with Mars on September 29th, this is going to be your last test, your last set of tests, and it's going to check everything you've been working on this past Saturn return, this past year. And so, it's the final stretch. We're leaving it all on the field, you know what I mean? So this is a big shift in energy for those of us in the Saturn return. Saturn is the truth bringer. It checks everything in our life. Finding where Saturn is in your chart will be beneficial to recognize what's being triggered specifically right now with the Saturn-Mars transits coming up. These are lessons learned. Saturn is one to reward us if Saturn's pleased with what we've been doing, if we've been learning the lessons that he's been testing us with, then, and those rewards can be multiple things. It can be spiritual rewards, it can be physical rewards, but Saturn is here to bring us to our truth and test us and help us evolve. And if we're not taking the opportunity to evolve with Saturn, this will be the last check that we get. And sometimes that's a really tough check, right? It's bringing something to you and making you deal with it. Like, here, I've been handing you this all year and you haven't taken it, so take a seat. And it really takes it upon itself to just put you there and give you this last chance to learn this lesson in your Saturn return. So that happens on the 29th. And then we move into October. And October 9th, Mars will square Pluto retrograde for the second time. Pluto is deep shadows. Pluto is hidden truths. Pluto is deep, dark politics and laws. It is deep transformations, it's secrets, it's obsessions. So this is going to be October 9th energy when Mars squares Pluto for the second time. Pluto forces us to see our true selves. So we're going to be going through Mars squaring Saturn, where it's checking us, it's checking our boundaries, it's making sure that we're stable, it's making sure that we're being truthful. But then Pluto comes in, and he's still retrograde, and so Pluto comes in and blasts us with these deep, dark truths, secrets, patterns, karmic patterns that we've been either hiding consciously or subconsciously are coming up to be healed. Deep trauma patterns that are wanting to be seen and be held and be healed will be coming up here as well again. So, Pluto and Mars aren't necessarily great things to have in retrograde, especially together. But again, retrogrades bring us the opportunity to heal and evolve. And so listening and being aware of the energies that are coming forward and what may be coming up will, it's helpful when people use it to incorporate into how they react in situations and how they deal with their healing and what may be coming up for them. Another important side note is that Mercury is going to go retrograde October 13th, and it stays there until November 3rd. In the United States, November 3rd is Election Day. So again, Mercury is going to go into retrograde, and it will not come out of retrograde until November 3rd. The last time this happened in the United States was 2000. So if you're old enough to know about the 2000 election, then you will know what I may be referencing, but I think those things are important to just note. And then we will have the Mercury shadow phase that comes after that. So it'll be a couple days following Election Day in the United States that Mercury will actually start moving direct again. So like I mentioned before, when Mars and Mercury are both in retrograde at the same time, this is an invitation to stop, to slow down, to think before you react. You may have a tendency to feel explosive, impulsive, confused, frustrated, etc. And so again, taking a moment to pause before reacting is an important thing to keep in mind when we have Mars and Mercury both in retrograde. This is a time for transformations. Things will be changing. Things will be coming up. People will show their truth selves. So it's a time to wait and kind of see what comes to light. Tables will turn in this moment. Things will be changing and evolving. And so being aware of that energy, taking a moment to breathe so you can watch how other people are reacting is an important key factor to evolving and taking this energy and having it help you in your process, opposed to fighting against this strong energy. There's going to be more on Mercury retrograde and things that are going to be happening in October and November as we move forward. So again, be sure to subscribe, check out my Patreon, or follow me on my social media pages at Healing Services. So as we continue to move through what Mars is doing through the rest of the year, October 18th will be Mars retrograde squaring Jupiter. So this is expansion. Jupiter is going to be out of retrograde by then. So Mars, still in retrograde, is still super heavy, super powerful, super ready to go. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, so it's also going to want to be going. But this is like volume way too loud, right? So it's coming out of all of these, we're talking October 18th, this is going to square. So we have just squared Pluto, we had just opposed Mercury, we have just squared Saturn, and now we're coming into Jupiter where it's expansion and growth and all of these things. So it's like when you're really frustrated and you're really down and then you get your second win and you want to just go full blast, well, that's what this is going to look like. It's going to be like a bit of hope, right? You're going to see this feel this good energy and have all this energy. So the importance here is to remember that this is a seed, this is a breath, this is a time to catch up, not a time to get ahead. This is a time to catch up. And so again, this could be volume way too loud if we allow it to be on October 18th and around that square with Mars and Jupiter direct. Mars is going to be in retrograde until it stations out on November 13th. On November 13th, it also happens to be a Friday. It is Friday the 13th, and Mars will go direct finally, and it will make its last pass through Aries, through the Capricorn Council. So another significant change, because Mars is finally going to feel like, okay, I can go forward again. And so again, going to be moving pretty slowly in that moment, but it's going to take off much faster than it has been in these last few months. So different than the other swings through the Capricorn Council, we're going to hit Pluto first with Mars. So Mars is going to square Pluto first. Pluto is going to be deep, dark secrets again. So this is going to be different because this is December 23rd. So December 23rd, Mars direct squares Pluto for the last time. Pluto is going to be the last planet still in Capricorn. Saturn and Jupiter will have already moved into Aquarius. And so this is the last amount of deep, dark secrets. More things will come to light in this moment. It'll be like the last darkness before the dawn type thing. And then that's December 23rd. And then Mars finally leaves Aries January 6th and it moves into Taurus. Mars in Taurus is wanting to finish what we started. Again, like we talked about in the video with Uranus retrograde in Taurus, which will also still be there and moving out of retrograde, but Mars Taurus is going to want to finish what we started. It's stable, it's firm, it can see the bigger picture, it's much more grounded than when Mars is in Aries, and it's going to be able to breathe just a little bit more, but it's still going to have to square Saturn and Jupiter one last time when they are in Aquarius, and that's going to happen on January 13th and January 22nd, and on the 13th, Mars is going to square Saturn. So this last run through the council is going to be Pluto, then Saturn, then Jupiter. So we end with Jupiter on a high note, which is different than any of the other times that Mars has squared these planets this year. So ending with Jupiter is like a high note. It's like the hope card. And, I'm not going to tie the dates together, but I'm going to invite you to take a look at the dates and how the significant dates may affect you personally, may affect the collective, and run with that as you will. Just being aware that this energy is happening, being aware that these retrogrades are changing and providing opportunities for you to evolve yourself and evolve as a global collective. And if you have any questions on how to handle this energy or what to do with it moving forward or how it affects you in your natal chart, please feel free to reach out to me at Mairi Healing Services. You can schedule or book a session or a reading directly on my Facebook page. You can also message me and we can talk about budgets and tiers. You can also check me out and support me on my Patreon, Mairi Healing Services. I appreciate all of those that support me and allow me to continue to support my communities at free and budgeted pricing. We're unable to get services a lot of times due to multiple different factors. So if you want to learn more about how to support me, please reach out to me on any of my platforms and I would be honored to connect with you. Thank you so much and have a great day.